recently cut my hair short and I couldn't be happier about the result. A little before I cut it, I also decided to let it go gray. Midlife crisis. Hi, welcome to my eclectic channel. My name is Agnes and I make videos for fun. Today I want to talk about growing older, or at least one aspect of it. I see a lot of anxiety among the younger generations about growing old and basically a refusal to do so. I am of a generation where growing old was a more natural part of life, and that's good. That is not to say that it is an easy process. It's a constant adaptation to change. A big adaptation for me, aside from losing the ability to read without one of these, was my hair. My hair has always been difficult, and I've got the pictures to prove it, peppered throughout this video. It took me a long time to figure out my hair and learn how to care for it, and once I had figured it out, it changed on me again. I hope my story and my tips may help somebody else frustrated by their mane. When I was a child and into my 20s, I had straight but rebellious hair, and it was quite sleek. I could not keep any elastics in my hair. No cute ponytails for me at that time. I permed my hair for a while. We're talking about the mid-1980s, it was a big thing back then. And I liked it. It made my hair easier to handle. The girls at the salon would draw short straws to decide who would put 2 racks worth of curlers into my hair. I experimented with a pixie haircut when I was in high school, but it was too much maintenance, so I almost immediately let it grow out again. I moved to Iowa for college, where my hair was exposed to blizzard-like winds for 6 months out of the year and very dry conditions indoors. Pretty soon the trims could not keep up with the damage incurred. I stumbled upon a blog by an African American who taught me about friction and leave-in conditioner. I started nourishing my hair better and wearing it in buns inside my hoods instead of exposed to the wind. It worked wonders. Then I moved to Central Texas, and better yet, Georgia. Hello, humidity. I continued to nourish my hair, but otherwise took the frizz as a state of affairs. My hair had acquired the ability to hold on to elastics and pins pretty well, so my life was all about ponytails and buns. During that time, I turned 30 and I had an identity crisis, and I cut my hair short the way I have it now. Except it looked different. It puffed up and rebelled. It was completely out of control, and I then remembered why I had let my hair grow long. Gravity was what made it manageable. A hairdresser pointed out that all it took was a bit of styling, and she went on to demonstrate by blowing hot air on my head in the middle of July in Texas. That further discouraged me, and I let my hair grow long again. That was my favorite. This was after I moved to a cooler, drier climate, northeast Pennsylvania, where I live now. By then, I was in my mid to late 30s and no longer okay with the frizz and poor-looking hair. YouTube was going full swing and chock full of advice on how to care for hair. I discovered that contrary to what I thought up to that point, I actually had wavy hair. I don't know when the transition happened from sleek to curly. I learned about locking in nourishing moisture instead of allowing water to sit inside the hair shaft and evaporate, taking away moisture. I started blow drying my hair with leave-in conditioner and heat protectant, and it helped for a while. A couple years ago, I started losing my hair at a high rate. At first, I thought it was breakage. I stopped with the blow drying and started a new hair care routine that I've kept today, and that's working. So let me take a minute to describe it. It's simple, quick and very inexpensive. So all I do is shampoo, condition in the shower. And then after that, when I'm at the end, I'm using and again, this is out of the African American hair department. With wavy, frizzy hair, it's a place to look, but still, I do not have African American hair. So I use this a little differently. What I do is, after my conditioning, I rinse it out and I wet my hair generously. Because essentially, this is good, but in very small amounts. Because I'm not really greasing my hair, I'm just trying to moisturize it. So yeah, with very wet hair, I take a little bit in the palm of my hand. Again, add some water to that, rub it, get my hands wet and greasy, and then I run that through my hair, my wet hair, comb through with a white tooth comb, and I leave that. And then I do use the t-shirt method to wrap my hair. I don't use a regular towel for what it's worth. And once my hair has dried a little bit, I get it out of the t-shirt. Then I finish with a bit of essential oils. I saw that trick just on the end. It seals in. It helps sealing the moisture. And as the week goes, when my hair starts to dry out, then I will spray that on my hands just a tad bit and just smooth it through. So I did that, but I continued to find teddy bears worth of hair in my shower. Eventually, not surprisingly, my hair started to look noticeably thinner. I now had to twist elastics twice instead of once for my ponytail. I went on for a while like that, but I got to a point where I started to downright hate my hair. And this was, my hair, as I've mentioned at the beginning of the video, has always been difficult. It's always been tough to love, but I had never hated it before. An aggravating factor, something that was happening at the same time, I had more gray and more grays, and I had thinning hair, and also the color was off. Even right after I colored it, it just was not very 100% successful at covering the grays. And at that point, I decided to just let it go gray. My hair was a mess, both in terms of body and color. And so I decided to cut it short again. I needed it off my head. And I was expecting to have to spend time every day to style it, as it had been the case before when I cut it short. But the first time I washed it and I did the treatment that I described, it came out perfect. Didn't have to do anything further to it. The next day I woke up, I just organized it a little bit. Beautiful, perfect. And the day after that and the day after that until my next shampooing. Beautiful, very easy. I went with a blunt cut because I was not sure of how my hair would behave shorter. In the past, I've had layers. I found out that's what it's called on YouTube just recently. I did the famous wolf haircut, and it was just like, I've seen people complain that you have to style it to get it to have volume. Not me. The trouble I was having, well, I had the volume, but the trouble I was having was hair that defied the laws of nature. And as a physicist, it was infuriating to walk around with hair essentially sticking out like that. Like, hair's not supposed to do that. Given that it is thinner now and that it's got this natural wave, I might try layers again. Who knows, they might work. Another advantage of cutting it shorter is that it cut out much of the brown part, the dyed part out. And without that contrast, the gray looks a little less gray. Now I know that's temporary, but I've made my peace with it. I started graying at a young age, and when I was 30, it just felt too soon to be salt and pepper. But now I'm ready. In conclusion, there's nothing wrong with aging. It's entirely natural. You do need to keep up with the changes that are inevitably happening. For me, my changing hair was the greatest mystery and the hardest to keep up with so far. I don't know what it will do next. I hope it will eventually turn into a pretty shade of gray. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.